Après le mariage, sa fiducie de 2 800 000 $ pourra régler les dettes de Nathan. Elle ne saura jamais. Evelyn Cole said in French. My fork touched the china with a clean little ping. The linen under my left hand felt stiff with starch. Garlic butter and red wine hung over the table, warm and heavy, and somewhere behind me a server was stacking glasses. Evelyn smiled at her husband, as if she had just made a harmless joke. Richard's mouth pulled at one corner. Nathan looked down at his plate. Nobody corrected her. I set both hands beside my plate and answered in the same language. Cet argent ne sera jamais à vous. That money will never be yours. Evelyn's smile stayed in place, but her wineglass stopped halfway to her lips. What did you say? Hannah asked. Before I could answer, Evelyn switched to English. Your father speaks French beautifully. I had no idea. You had no idea I understood you, I said. Richard shifted his napkin onto the table. Thomas, I think we should be careful here. About what? About turning a family dinner into something it isn't. I looked at Nathan. What debts? Nathan gave a short laugh that landed badly. There aren't any debts Hannah needs to worry about. That wasn't my question. Hannah touched my wrist. Dad. Her fingers were warm. Mine weren't. Evelyn leaned toward my daughter. Sweetheart, your father heard one silly line and gave it the weight of a contract. Richard and I joke when we're nervous. Weddings do that to parents. I repeated her words in English, exactly as I had heard them. After the wedding, Hannah's $2,800,000 trust can pay off Nathan's debts. She'll never know. The smile finally left Evelyn's face. Richard cleared his throat. You worked around distressed loans for years, Thomas. You know the difference between debt and ordinary financing. That was the first honest thing anyone at the table had said. At 62, after most of my career had been spent sorting through commercial loans that had gone sideways, I knew people rarely became vague about money by accident. Exact numbers came from somewhere. Deadlines came from somewhere. And when someone said not to worry about a debt, there was usually a reason they didn't want you asking who owed it. Hannah pulled her hand away from mine. Can everybody stop talking around me? She said. Nathan, what is he talking about? Nathan wiped his mouth and folded the napkin twice before answering. The hotel has financing. Every hotel has financing. Your mother said your debts. She was joking. Evelyn lifted one shoulder. Poorly, apparently. Nobody laughed. I asked Nathan, do you personally owe money connected to Harbor House? Richard's chair scraped the floor. This is dinner, he said. Not a credit committee. No, I said. At a credit committee, somebody would have answered by now. Hannah pushed back from the table an inch. Dad. Enough. There it was. Not loud. Worse than loud. I could still hear Julia in the way Hannah clipped the last word when she wanted a conversation to stop. My wife had been gone 6 years, but some sounds kept their address. Julia had grown up in a French-Canadian family in Montreal, and for more than 30 years, French had been part of my marriage, not a party trick. I closed my mouth. Evelyn reached for the wine. Thank you, Hannah. That did it. I looked at my daughter. Not Evelyn. Are you putting money into the hotel? Hannah's eyes narrowed. Nathan and I have discussed an investment. How much? Dad, how much? Her jaw moved once before she answered. 2.8. For several seconds, the only sound near us was a waiter setting silverware at an empty table. Same amount. Not close. Not roughly. Exact. Evelyn took a sip of wine. Richard said, Hannah would receive equity. 35%. This isn't charity. Non-controlling? I asked. His eyes sharpened. Yes. And what does her money pay for? Renovation. Working capital. Capital structure improvements. 3 phrases. No answer. If stories about family betrayal, buried money secrets, and revenge built on the truth keep you listening, subscribe for more family drama like this. There was still a lot at that table nobody wanted Hannah to ask about. I turned back to Richard. Do you have a sources and uses statement? Hannah exhaled through her nose. You said you were done. I asked a question. You're interviewing them. Evelyn lowered her voice. He's worried about losing you, sweetheart. That's all. I looked at her. She gave me a small, sympathetic smile, the kind people use at funerals when they want credit for standing near the family. Hannah's shoulders tightened. Mom has nothing to do with this. I didn't say she did, Evelyn replied. She hadn't needed to. Richard placed 2 fingers on the table. The investment supports a renovation cycle and improves liquidity while we manage bridge timing. I turned to Hannah. Have you seen the debt schedule? What debt schedule? Richard answered before she could. Thomas, you know private companies don't circulate every internal document over dinner. The trust. Then why are you discussing her trust over dinner? Nathan finally looked at me. Because my mother made a stupid joke about an exact number. He didn't answer. Hannah stood. I'm leaving. Her chair legs dragged across the floor. I reached for my coat, but she shook her head. Don't. I let my hand fall. She walked toward the front of the restaurant. Nathan started after her. Then Evelyn caught his sleeve. Give her a minute, Evelyn said. Not asked. Told. Nathan stopped. That told me something too. Outside, the valet station hummed under bright ceiling heaters. Cars rolled over damp pavement, tires whispering against the curb. The cold metal edge of the claim ticket pressed into my palm, while Hannah stood 10 feet away, arms folded over her dress. I waited. She spoke first. I'm 33 years old. I know. Then stop treating every man I love like he's applying for a loan. I didn't ask Nathan for his credit score. You asked him about personal debt at dinner with his parents, after his mother said your trust would pay it. Hannah looked toward the restaurant doors. She said it in another language because she thought she was making some private family joke. That explanation doesn't make it better. You always do this. A black SUV pulled up between us and the street. The valet called another name. Hannah continued, quieter now. You find one thing that doesn't fit, and then everything becomes a case. Nathan isn't one of your borrowers. I'm not one of your files. The old answer rose before I could stop it. I almost told her that after Julia died, protecting her was the only job I still knew how to do without thinking. I swallowed it. My daughter didn't owe me obedience because I missed her mother. Okay, I said. Her face changed slightly. Okay? I won't call the hotel. I won't call their bank. I won't call your trustee. I won't do anything behind your back. She watched me as if there had to be another sentence. There was. But answer one question. Hannah rubbed her thumb along the seam of her purse. What? You said you reviewed the proposal. I did. Did you review their debt schedule? No. Her voice came quicker this time. Because I wasn't buying their debt. Then ask what Richard meant by bridge timing. She looked away. And ask why your investment has a bank deadline. Her eyes came back to mine. What bank deadline? I said nothing. Neither had they. Hannah took out her phone and called Nathan. He answered before the second ring. Hey, are you okay? She put him on speaker. What bank deadline? Hannah asked. A pause. A car door slammed at the curb. Behind us, the restaurant door opened and released a wash of warm air that smelled like roasted garlic. Nathan said, It's nothing dramatic. That isn't a date. Hannah, what date? Another pause. Longer. October 23rd, Nathan said. It's basically a bank housekeeping date. Dad's making it sound bigger than it is. Hannah stared at the phone. I didn't know there was a bank deadline. You didn't need to. It's on our side. Our side. I mean the company side. Hannah's thumb hovered over the screen. Does my investment have to happen before that date? Nathan breathed out. We were going to go through all of this after the wedding. The claim ticket bent between my fingers. Hannah looked at me. She still wasn't standing on my side, but she wasn't standing where she had been 10 minutes earlier either. Then send me the full package, she told Nathan. Not the brochure. Everything. Nathan called before Hannah, and I had reached my car. She looked at his name on the screen, then at me. Don't say anything unless I ask you. I won't. The restaurant door closed behind us, cutting off the clatter of plates. Outside, the night smelled of wet pavement and exhaust. Hannah answered and put the phone on speaker. Hey, Nathan said. His voice had gone soft. Careful. I'm sorry about Mom. Hannah leaned against the passenger door. Which part? A pause. The French thing. The joke. All of it. You're sorry she joked? Hannah asked. I'm sorry it upset you. My daughter rubbed the bridge of her nose. She caught me watching and pointed one finger at me without looking away from the phone. I stayed quiet. Nathan continued. Dad will send the materials in the morning. I told him to include whatever you want. Everything, Hannah said. Sure. Not another brochure. I heard you. She ended the call and handed me my claim ticket, which I had somehow carried out of the restaurant after the valet had already brought my car around. You wanted me to ask questions, she said. I'm asking them. That doesn't mean you get to take over. I know. No calls to their lender. No calls to the hotel accountant. And absolutely no call to the trust company. The last one landed harder because she knew me well enough to name the number I had already considered dialing. Agreed. Hannah studied my face. That easy? It should have been easier years ago. Her mouth tightened, but she let that pass. On the drive to her apartment, she explained the investment more clearly than she ever had before. $2,800,000 for a 35% membership interest in Harbor House Hotel. Non-controlling. Some approval rights on major decisions, but Richard would still run the property. My attorney reviewed the subscription terms, Hannah said. She didn't see anything unusual. Did she review the hotel's finances? No. She reviewed what I'd be signing. That's different. I understand that now. The brochure, Hannah told me, focused on a rooftop renovation, upgraded guest rooms, and a projected rise in property value after improvements. It sounded respectable. Better than respectable. Harbor House was a real hotel with real rooms, real staff, and a location people paid good money to visit. That mattered. A bad deal didn't need to be fake. Years in loan workouts had taught me that troubled businesses rarely announced themselves with red ink across the first page. They used nicer words. Timing. Restructuring. Temporary pressure. Sometimes those words were fair. Sometimes they were wallpaper over a hole in the wall. The only way to know was to follow the money from the moment it arrived to the moment it left. I nearly told Hannah that. Instead, I kept it to myself. She had asked for documents. Not another lecture from her father. By Tuesday morning, an email from Richard was waiting in Hannah's inbox. She called me at 7:40 and said, "Coffee, my place, and bring reading glasses." I was there, 20 minutes later. The package looked polished enough to sell beachfront property in Nebraska. Heavy paper, architectural renderings, revenue charts, a photograph of the rooftop at sunset with tiny people holding cocktails beside a fire pit that did not yet exist. Hannah slid the subscription memorandum toward me. Read. I did. Halfway down the use of proceeds section, one phrase stopped me. Renovation, working capital, and refinancing of existing obligations. I tapped the line once. What? Hannah asked. What percentage goes to renovation? She flipped back through the packet. Paper whispered across her kitchen table. I don't see a percentage. How much goes to working capital? Not listed. Which existing obligations? Nothing. The coffee maker clicked off behind us. Hannah pulled the packet back and read the page herself. Maybe that's in the exhibits. We checked. No debt schedule. No creditor list. No related party loan disclosure. No guarantee list. What the packet did include was a transaction timetable. Hannah traced the dates with her finger. Withdrawal instruction due Tuesday, October 13th. Target funding date Tuesday, October 20th. I leaned back. That's 5 business days, she said, which matches your trust's processing window. She looked at me sharply. You said you wouldn't call them. I didn't. You told me the notice rule when Julia's trust changed after you turned 30. Hannah looked back at the page. 3 days after the wedding, her trust money was expected to land in Harbor House. 3 days later came the bank deadline Nathan had finally admitted existed. She closed the packet. Not slammed. Closed. Then she called Nathan. He arrived at her apartment just after lunch, carrying a paper copy of the same materials and the expression of a man entering a room where he intended to lower the temperature. "This got blown out of proportion," Nathan said after Hannah let him in. "The bridge loan is normal. Hotels use short-term financing all the time." Hannah stayed standing. "How much is it?" Nathan glanced at me. "I don't have every number memorized." "You work for the company," I said. "Business development, Thomas. I'm not the controller." Fair answer. So I asked another. "What does refinancing existing obligations mean?" Nathan placed his packet on the table. "Exactly what it says. We clean up some old financing, fund the renovation, improve liquidity." "We?" I asked. "The company." "You said we." His jaw shifted. "Because it's my family's company. You know what I meant." Hannah opened to the timetable. "Why did nobody tell me my trust withdrawal date was built around the lender deadline?" "It isn't built around it. The money arrives 3 days before. Because everyone wanted to close efficiently. Everyone except me apparently knew the schedule." Nathan looked at her then, not at me. "Hannah, I am not asking you to pay my debts." The sentence sat there. Clean, specific, and nobody had accused him of that in the apartment. I kept my mouth shut. After Nathan left, Hannah stood at the kitchen window with her phone in both hands. She read something, locked the screen, then unlocked it again. "My future mother-in-law called while Nathan was driving over," she said. I waited. Hannah's voice flattened as she repeated it. "Evelyn said she worries you haven't accepted that I'm building a life with somebody else. She said, losing Mom made you hold on harder." I looked at the untouched coffee in front of me. "What else?" she said. "A father can hold on so tightly he mistakes it for protection." That sounded like Evelyn. Soft enough to put on a greeting card. Sharp enough to leave a mark. Hannah sat across from me. "And she's not completely wrong." "No. You checked the contractor when I remodeled my bathroom. He had 3 complaints. You ran the license plate of a guy I dated. He lied about his name." "Dad." I stopped. Her palm rested on the packet between us. "If you turn this into a campaign against Nathan, I'm done showing you anything. Do you understand?" The old part of me wanted to argue that secrecy was exactly what the Coles needed. Another part, quieter and harder to live with, knew Hannah was asking for something reasonable. "I understand." She opened her laptop. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Due diligence." The email she drafted was 6 lines long. No accusations. No mention of French. No mention of me. She asked Nathan and Richard for the complete debt schedule. All personal guarantees tied to existing obligations. All related party loans. The current lender extension. And the full sources and uses statement for her proposed investment. Then she turned the screen toward me. "Anything else?" I read it twice. "No." Hannah hit send. Richard answered 43 minutes later. His reply contained 4 sentences. Hannah read the last 2 aloud. "Your request goes well beyond what we ordinarily provide for an investment of this size. I will have our office send what is relevant to your decision." She stared at the words for a moment, then started typing. "What are you saying?" I asked. Hannah didn't look up. "Then the amount doesn't warrant my money." She sent it. A minute later, 3 dots appeared beneath Richard's name in the message window, vanished, then came back. His answer finally arrived. "Fine. We'll send what is relevant." Hannah turned the laptop toward me again. I read the sentence once, then a second time. Not everything. What is relevant? Richard's promised package arrived at 3:17 the next afternoon, with a password-protected link and 1 sentence. "This should be more than sufficient for your review." Hannah read it aloud from the other side of her kitchen table. "More than sufficient," she repeated. "Open it." She gave me a look over the top of her laptop. "That sounded like an order. Please open it." "Better." The download contained 27 pages. Enough to look substantial. Not enough to answer everything Hannah had requested. We started with the debt schedule. The refrigerator compressor kicked on behind me while I ran a finger down the first column. Bridge financing. Vendor balances more than 90 days old. Property taxes and operating fees due within the same month. A working capital figure with a minus sign in front of it. Hannah leaned closer. "How bad is that?" I don't know yet. You used to do this for a living. That's why I'm not going to call one ugly page a funeral. I pointed to the maturity date on the bridge loan, then to the cash balance shown at the bottom of the operating statement. Those two numbers don't like each other, I said. She frowned. Meaning? They don't have enough available cash to deal with what comes due without something changing. The investment. Possibly. That word bothered her more than a stronger answer would have. Hannah had grown up around me saying no to certainty when the paper didn't support it. She knew what possibly meant. Keep reading. So we did. The brochure she had shown me was still on the counter. Rooftop lounge. New guest rooms. Expanded event space. Fresh photographs and projected rates that climbed neatly year after year. The financial package told a less attractive story. Not a fake hotel. Not an empty shell. Harbor House had real revenue, real property value, and bookings already on the calendar. But the urgency surrounding Hannah's investment had very little to do with cocktails on a roof. Several obligations were already pressing on the business. Vendor balances had been carried longer than the glossy presentation suggested. Cash reserves were thin. The bridge loan had a maturity date close enough to the wedding that I could finally see why Richard kept using the word timing. One page listed the property at a valuation high enough to explain why Hannah had been interested in the first place. Harbor House was not some failing roadside motel with weeds through the parking lot. Its rooms brought in money. The real estate had weight. That made the situation more dangerous, not less, because a valuable property could carry bad financing for a long time, while everyone around it kept saying the asset would save them. I drew 2 columns on a yellow legal pad. One for money that would build something new, one for money that would erase something old. The first column had promises, the second already had due dates. "Dad," Hannah said, watching the pen, "please don't turn this into one of your old workout files." "I'm trying not to." "You color-coded those. Only when people lied." That almost made her smile. Almost. Hannah flipped back to the page labeled Proposed Improvements. "They told me the money was for the next phase. Some of it may be. Some. That's the problem. We still don't know how much." She closed her eyes for a second, then opened them and reached for her phone. Nathan answered on video. I stayed out of the camera frame until Hannah told him I was there. "Of course he is," Nathan said. His tone wasn't angry. That made it easier to hear the edge underneath. Hannah turned the laptop so he could see the debt schedule. "Explain this to me." Nathan glanced off screen before answering. "The bridge debt is Dad's. The vendor backlog got worse during the renovation delays. Some of that goes back to the pandemic years. None of this is unusual for a property going through a capital cycle." "What about the negative working capital?" Hannah asked. "It's temporary. Everything seems temporary until my money arrives." Nathan's face tightened. "That isn't fair." I kept my hands around my coffee mug. The ceramic had gone cold. Nathan continued. "I handle business development. I'm not the person choosing which invoice gets paid on Tuesday. There's no secret personal debt of mine sitting in that package." Hannah looked at me. I said nothing. Because on that point, the pages in front of us did not prove him wrong. After the call ended, Hannah pushed her chair back. "You heard him." "I did." And the company owes money." "That's not what Mom said in French." "No. So maybe she really was being careless." "Maybe." Hannah stared at me, almost annoyed that I wouldn't fight her. Then she sat down again. Page 19 changed the shape of the afternoon. It was a short schedule of insider obligations. Near the bottom sat one line. Member loan. N. Cole. $540,000. Hannah read it twice. "Nathan, that would be my first question." She called him again. This time, Nathan answered without video. Hannah put the phone on speaker. "Why does Harbor House owe you $540,000? For a moment, all I heard was the faint rush of traffic on his end. Then Nathan said, "Because I put money into the hotel when Dad needed it." "As a loan?" "Yes." "From where?" "My money." Hannah's thumb pressed against the edge of the phone. "That's not an answer." Nathan let out a breath. "Savings and credit. I moved things around. It was a couple years ago. If my investment closes, do you get the 540 back? I don't know what gets paid at closing. You just told me you work in business development, not accounts payable. Now you don't know if $500,000 owed to you gets repaid? Hannah, the company owing me money is not the same thing as me owing somebody else money. Technically true. That was what made it useful. He continued before she could answer. If the company repays a member loan someday, it's paying back money I already put in. Your dad knows that. Hannah looked at me. Yes, I said. That part is true. Nathan went quiet. I asked, what portion came from savings and what portion came from credit? Thomas, I'm talking to Hannah. Then, answer Hannah. Another silence. Nathan said, I don't have the breakdown in front of me. Hannah ended the call without saying goodbye. For the first time since the dinner, she wasn't defending him, but she wasn't condemning him either. She simply opened the PDF again. Halfway through the footnotes, I found a reference that should have had a document attached to it. See, Schedule G, Personal Guarantees. I checked the file list. No, Schedule G. Hannah searched the folder herself. Maybe it's embedded. It isn't. She typed Richard a message asking for the missing schedule. His answer came 9 minutes later. That is a boilerplate cross-reference from the lender template. It is not material to your proposed equity position. I read the sentence aloud. Hannah's chair creaked as she leaned back. That was fast. Very. You think he's lying? I think he answered a different question. She looked at the reference again. I asked for the schedule. He told me whether he thinks I need it. Exactly. Hannah began typing. Please send Schedule G. Nothing more. Richard did not respond. An hour later, Evelyn called, inviting Hannah to meet her Thursday for a final dress fitting and lunch with the wedding coordinator. I heard only Hannah's side because she took the call in the hallway. Yes, I'm still coming. A pause. No, I don't want to discuss Dad. Another pause. I said I'm still coming. When she returned, she left her phone face down on the table. If Schedule G is nothing, Hannah said, I need you to stop. I looked at the missing attachment reference on the screen. Stop asking? Stop assuming the worst about Nathan. Stop digging for a second meaning behind every sentence. Let me handle my marriage. The request cost me more than I wanted her to see, but it was hers to make. If Schedule G is nothing, I said. I stop. Hannah nodded once. Her laptop chimed. Neither of us moved at first. Then she opened Richard's new email. Attached was a 2-page PDF. Schedule G. Personal Guarantees. Hannah clicked it. The first name on the first page was Nathan Cole. Nathan Cole's name sat beneath the words, Personal Guarantor. Hannah enlarged the page until the type filled most of the screen. The kitchen had gone quiet except for the refrigerator motor and the faint tick of the ceiling fan chain against its glass shade. $1,250,000, she said. I read the paragraph below his name before I answered. That's the bridge loan principal. And he guaranteed it personally. Yes. Her thumb moved down the trackpad. A second attachment from Richard's package showed the member loan again. Harbor House owed Nathan $540,000. Hannah looked from one document to the other. So if I put in $2,800,000, they can pay the bridge loan and pay Nathan back. They can, I said. That does not tell us yet whether the lender releases his guarantee at closing, and it doesn't tell us what Nathan does with the member loan repayment. You're correcting me now? I'm keeping the paper honest. She leaned back, arms folded. The paper is doing a pretty good job on its own. The next afternoon, Nathan came over instead of taking another phone call. He arrived without a coat, despite the October chill, and carried no folder, no laptop, nothing he could put between himself and Hannah. She did not offer him coffee. Did you personally guarantee the bridge loan? Hannah asked, before he had fully sat down. Nathan looked at the open PDF. Yes. Why didn't you tell me? My dad needed another signer. That isn't why you didn't tell me. His chair gave a small wooden knock against the floor as he shifted. Because every time I tried, it sounded worse than it was. Hannah's mouth opened, then closed. Nathan rubbed both palms over his thighs. Dad was trying to keep the hotel alive. The lender wanted more support. I had equity in the company. So I signed. That was before you and I were even engaged. And the 540,000? She asked. I put money in when payroll and renovation bills were stacking up. From savings and credit. Yes. How much credit? Nathan glanced at me. Can this be between us? Hannah did not turn her head. My father is here because I asked him to be. A muscle moved near Nathan's jaw. I don't have the exact split in front of me, he said. But none of this means your trust is paying my personal debt. The hotel owes me. I owe the lender nothing, unless the hotel fails on the bridge and the guarantee gets called. Again, technically careful, I asked. If Hannah's investment closes, does the hotel intend to pay the bridge loan in full? Nathan looked at me. I don't know the final closing sequence. Does the company intend to repay your member loan? I told you. I don't run treasury. Then let's leave that unanswered. Hannah tapped the table with one fingernail. Were you ever going to tell me about the guarantee before the wedding? Nathan faced her. His voice dropped. Yes. When? I don't know. That's not yes. He stood, walked 3 steps toward the window, then stopped. You want me to say my parents pushed me into things? Fine. They did. Harbor House was always our name, our responsibility, our future. When I was 26, Dad told me selling my share would be like selling my last name. When I said I couldn't keep putting cash in, Mom asked whether I wanted employees who watched me grow up to lose their jobs. Hannah's expression changed. Not softened exactly, but she listened. Nathan turned back toward her. I have spent years cleaning up problems I didn't create. And now you want me to buy 35% of them, she said. He flinched at that. It is still a good property, Nathan said. The investment can be good for you and good for the hotel. Both things can be true. They could. That was what made the room harder to read. A man can be cornered by his parents and still leave another person standing in the same corner. Those facts do not cancel each other out. I had seen borrowers blame partners, fathers, markets, divorces, bad advice. Sometimes, every word was true. The signature at the bottom still belonged to them. So I asked the only question the documents had not answered. Did you tell the bank about Hannah's money? Nathan looked at me for several seconds. No commitment was made. That wasn't my question. I said no commitment was made. Hannah lifted one hand. Dad. Stop. I stopped. Nathan reached for her fingers across the table. She let him take them. The guarantee does not prove Nathan planned to take my trust, Hannah said to me. It proves he backed his family's loan. Yes. And the member loan proves Harbor House owes him money. Yes. It does not prove where my money goes at closing. No. She watched me, waiting for the argument. I did not give her one. Hannah pulled her hand free from Nathan's and folded both hands together. I'm not canceling the wedding over documents I don't understand yet. Nathan's shoulders lowered. But I'm not signing the investment either, she added. His shoulders came back up. Until when? Nathan asked. Until I know what I'm buying. For a moment nobody spoke. It was not the victory either man at the table wanted, which probably made it the right decision. On the refrigerator behind Hannah, the wedding invitation was held under a little brass magnet shaped like a lighthouse. Julia had collected those magnets whenever we traveled, and Hannah had taken 3 of them after her mother died. The cream card listed the ceremony for Saturday, October 17th, 9 days away. Nathan followed my eyes. I still want to marry her, Thomas. I didn't say you didn't. You look at me like this is all one scheme. I'm looking at documents. That's convenient. Hannah stepped between us, with the flat of her hand against the table. Enough. The wedding stays. The investment waits. If either of you turns that into something else, you're not listening to me. Settled it. For the moment. After Nathan left, Hannah walked me to the door. Her fingertips stayed on the knob. You kept your word, she said. I'm trying. You didn't tell me to cancel. That's your decision. She nodded once. Then what's the next question? I looked back toward the laptop. What did the lender think the new equity was? Hannah's brow tightened. If Richard told the bank fresh equity was coming, I said. The term sheet or extension letter should say how much they expected and when. And if it says 2.8, then we ask when that number first entered the bank's file. She opened the door, then stopped before I stepped through it. You're not emailing them? No. I am. Good. From the hallway, I heard her keyboard before the door closed. Richard answered 40 minutes later with a note that managed to sound irritated without using a single rude word. The lender materials were confidential, he wrote, but given Hannah's continued questions, he would provide the current extension term sheet for the limited purpose of evaluating her proposed investment. Hannah forwarded it to me. I was at my dining room table when the file opened. The radiator clicked beneath the window. A cup of tea, Julia would have called criminally, oversteeped, cooled beside my elbow while I read the first page. The lender had granted Harbor House a final extension on the bridge facility, subject to several conditions. One line sat under the heading, Capital Support. Anticipated new family equity, $2,800,000. I read it again. Then I checked the date. August 24th, 2026. 6 weeks before the dinner. My phone rang almost immediately. Hannah did not say hello. Dad, I'm looking at the date. So am I. I didn't know about the October deadline until Monday. I know, and I had never seen this term sheet. I know. Her breathing came through the phone, slow and uneven. A cabinet door opened on her end, then shut. Evelyn said the French comment was a joke. Hannah said, yes. Nathan said, no commitment was made. That may still be true. But the bank had my exact number in August. I put my finger beside the printed date, as if touching it could make the chronology simpler. Hannah's next words came very quietly. How did the bank know my number before I knew there was a deadline? I told him. Hannah's voice came through my phone before I had finished saying hello. Friday morning had barely started. The kettle behind me rattled against its burner, and the kitchen still smelled faintly of the toast I had burned while rereading the lender term sheet. Told Nathan what? I asked. The amount. I turned off the burner. Hannah continued. A few months ago, we were talking about buying a house after the wedding. Down payment, mortgage, whether we'd keep my condo. I told him the trust was around $2.8 million. The term sheet lay open on my table, August 24th printed at the top. So he didn't steal the number, I said. Silence. That's it? Hannah asked. That's what the new fact tells us. I thought you'd say he manipulated it out of me. I don't have evidence of that. A cabinet door clicked on her end. You really mean that? Yes. The admission cost me less than pretending otherwise would have. In my old work, the fastest way to ruin a good analysis was to fall in love with your first theory. If the facts changed, the theory had to move. Hannah let out a slow breath. Then maybe Mom Cole was right. Maybe they all knew because Nathan and I had already talked about it. Maybe. There's that word again. It's doing useful work. She almost laughed, but the sound never quite formed. By 10, Hannah was at my house, with the term sheet printed and marked in pencil. She had circled the same line I had. Anticipated new family equity, $2,800,000. I told Nathan what I had, she said. I did not tell him I was investing all of it. That's the distinction. Is it? I slid the page toward her. Did you ever tell him? You can tell your parents' bank to expect my trust money? No. Did you authorize Harbor House to include you as an expected source of capital? No. Did you know there was a lender extension tied to fresh equity? Not until Monday night. Her pencil stopped moving. That's the question now, I said. Not how Nathan learned the balance. What did he do with what you told him? Hannah's phone rang on the table. Evelyn. My daughter stared at the name for 2 rings before answering. Hi. Evelyn's voice was bright enough to cross the room without speakerphone. Hannah lowered the volume and put the call on speaker anyway. I hope I'm not interrupting wedding work, Evelyn said. I'm with Dad. A short pause. Well, then perhaps this is useful. Hannah's shoulders went still. Evelyn continued. Nathan told me you remembered discussing the trust with him. Of course he knew the amount. Engaged people talk about finances. That's what responsible couples do. I know, I told him, Hannah said. I'm glad, because this has become so ugly over something very ordinary. I looked down at the page. Evelyn's tone softened. Thomas has spent his whole life looking for problems in financial documents. I'm sure that made him very good at his career. But intimacy is not a lone file. Hannah rubbed the eraser end of her pencil with her thumb. I said, Evelyn, nobody is accusing Nathan of knowing the number improperly. Then what exactly are you accusing him of? Nothing yet. That quieted her for half a second. I went on. We're asking what Harbor House told its lender about Hannah's money and who authorized that representation. Evelyn gave a small laugh. Representation. Listen to the vocabulary. Hannah told her fiancé she was considering investing. The company told the bank there was potential family equity. Now suddenly we need courtroom language. It isn't courtroom language, I said. It's lending language. Same difference to people who want a wedding. Hannah cut in. Mom Cole, I'll call you later. Evelyn's voice lowered. Sweetheart, just be careful you don't let someone turn the private conversations of your future marriage into evidence against the man you're marrying. The call ended. Hannah kept looking at the blank phone screen. That was good, she said eventually. What was? Her point. It was. Her eyes came up. You agree? Knowing your trust balance isn't wrongdoing. And telling the bank there might be equity? Not automatically. That answer made her sit back. A lender could consider expected capital without holding a binding commitment. Businesses forecast money that has not arrived yet. Investors change their minds. Deals die. None of that, by itself, made Nathan a thief or Richard a fraud. But Hannah had never been shown the lender deadline before her own money appeared in the lender's forecast. Both things could be true. Just before noon, Richard sent an explanation. Hannah forwarded it without comment. His letter said, Harbor House had informed the lender of potential equity from an incoming family investor. No binding commitment had been represented. No trust assets had been pledged, and no lender had been given authority over Hannah's funds. Her proposed investment remained subject to final documentation and her voluntary approval. I read the letter twice. Then I called her. He's right about one thing, I said. Which thing? This doesn't show your trust was legally committed. So we're done? Maybe on that accusation. Hannah's voice sharpened. There was never that accusation. Fair. Another correction. She stayed quiet long enough for me to hear traffic below her apartment. If the economics are good, Hannah said. I'm not walking away from a good investment because Richard used it in a forecast. That's your decision. But. That surprised both of us. I went back to the term sheet after we hung up. Not because I wanted another theory, because something about Richard's wording bothered me. Potential equity from an incoming family investor. The lender document used a more exact figure. Exact figures usually came from a forecast. At the bottom of the capital support section, a reference sat in type small enough that I had ignored it the night before. See borrower forecast and capital certification, dated August 24th. I did not have it. Neither did Hannah. When I called, she was already opening the term sheet on her laptop. Found it, she said before I explained. Ask for that document. You're not asking? No. Good. Her email to Richard was one line. Please provide the borrower forecast and capital certification referenced in the August 24th extension materials. Richard answered, 20 minutes later. That document is internal borrower material and is not necessary to evaluate your membership subscription. Hannah read the sentence aloud. Then she laughed once. No humor in it. They want $2.8 million from me. But the document that explains why their bank expected $2.8 million isn't necessary for me. That seems to be his position. She typed another message. If my proposed capital is referenced in that certification, it is necessary to my review. Please send it. No answer came. By late afternoon, Nathan asked Hannah to meet him alone. She told me before she left. Don't call me while I'm with him. I won't. And don't email Richard again. I haven't emailed Richard once. You know what I mean. I did. For almost 3 hours, my phone stayed face down on the dining table. I washed a coffee cup that was already clean. Sorted mail I had sorted yesterday. Picked up the term sheet, then put it back without reading it. At 7:12, Hannah called. Nathan says we can't start a marriage with 3 people in it. I sat down. What did you say? That sometimes the third person is there because the first 2 aren't telling each other enough. I waited. Her voice softened. But he's not entirely wrong either. No. He asked me whether every financial decision we make will go through you. It shouldn't. And I need you to stop until the certification comes. My fingers tightened around the edge of the table, then loosened. All right, Dad, I mean it. I know. If it comes, I'll read it. I'll send it to you if I want you involved. That last part hurt more than I expected. Still, it was her life, her money, her wedding. I understand. We hung up. A minute later, I opened our text thread. I typed 3 sentences, deleted all 3, and left only 1. When it arrives, read the date before the explanation. I sent it. Then I put the phone down and did not touch it again. The spreadsheet arrived Saturday morning with the kind of title people use when they want bad news to look temporary. Preliminary sources and uses. Hannah forwarded it to me without a message. I opened the file at my dining room table. The radiator clicked beneath the window, and the paper from my printer came out warm enough to curl at the edges. Coffee had gone bitter in the mug beside my elbow. By the time I reached the bottom of the first page, I wasn't looking at a renovation plan anymore. My phone rang. What does this actually buy me? Hannah asked. No, hello. No accusation. I turned the page sideways and followed the numbers with my finger. About $1,250,000 goes to pay off the bridge loan. $540,000 repays Nathan's member loan. Then you have overdue vendors, property taxes, closing costs, working capital, and other fees. And the renovation? About $150,000 is listed for immediate capital improvements. That's it? That's what this draft says. The paper made a dry rasp when I pushed it away. Hannah was quiet. I said, "This does not make the investment illegal or fake. Dad, I mean it. Distressed investments can be good investments if the price reflects the risk and the buyer knows what the money is doing. They sold me a rooftop. They sold you growth. And this is rescue." I let the words sit between us, because it was hers, not mine. Hannah spoke again. If I put in $2,800,000, most of it fixes things that already happened. Yes. What do I own afterward? 35% of the company, non-controlling. And Richard still runs it. Yes. Her breath moved across the phone speaker. I want to hear Nathan explain that. He came to her apartment just after noon. Hannah asked me to join them because she wanted me to explain the document only if she got stuck. I took the chair farthest from Nathan and kept the sources and uses sheet folded on my lap. Hannah did not waste time. You showed me renderings of new rooms and a rooftop bar, she said. Why does almost all my money go to old debt? Nathan's face tightened. Because you don't renovate a hotel with a dirty balance sheet. So you clean the balance sheet first. Yes. Then the property can grow. His answer was smooth because part of it was true. Hannah tapped the page. $540,000 comes back to you. It's repayment of money I already put in. Money from savings and credit. Yes. How much of the repayment goes to your credit? Nathan rubbed a hand over his mouth. I still need to pull the old statements. You've had 4 days. I'm getting married in a week, Hannah. I'm not sitting in a records room all day. Her eyes dropped to the paper. I could have jumped in. I didn't. Nathan leaned toward her. I put my own money into Harbor House when nobody else would. Getting repaid doesn't make me a thief. Hannah looked up. I didn't call you one, but your father thinks this is a crime scene. I unfolded the sheet. No, I said. I think it's a capital stack. Nathan gave a tired laugh. There, exactly. I ignored that. One question. Is the bridge loan being brought current at closing or paid off in full? His expression changed by a fraction. Paid off, he said. And your guarantee? The lender is supposed to release me when they receive payoff. Hannah turned to him. So my money clears a loan you personally guaranteed. The company's loan. Which you personally guaranteed. Nathan pushed back from the table. That's what guarantees are, Hannah. I stepped up for my family, and you never thought I needed to know that? His mouth opened. Nothing came out. The refrigerator clicked off behind us, leaving the room so quiet I could hear a car horn 2 floors below. I asked one more question. Have you seen the payoff letter? Nathan looked at me. Not the final one. Then we don't know the release terms yet. He stood. You see what he does? Every answer becomes another question. Hannah stayed seated. The questions keep changing because the answers keep changing, she said. Nathan stared at her, then picked up his keys. Before he reached the door, he turned back. Refinancing debt is normal. Repaying a member loan is normal. Paying off a bridge facility is normal. None of this means anyone is taking your money. Hannah folded the sources and uses page in half. No, she said. It means you wanted my money to do things nobody told me it was going to do. He left without answering. For 20 minutes after the door shut, Hannah and I barely spoke. The pressure in the room eased just enough for ordinary sounds to come back. Pipes in the wall, a delivery truck backing somewhere outside, the plastic lid on her takeout cup popping as it cooled. Then her phone lit up. Evelyn. Hannah looked at me. I'm going to meet her. You don't have to. I know. She stood and reached for her coat. And I'm going alone. That evening, Hannah came to my house smelling faintly of the floral perfume Evelyn wore to every formal event. She didn't take off her coat. What did she say? I asked. My daughter walked to the kitchen counter and set her purse down with both hands. She said, you're making me choose between being your daughter and being Nathan's wife. I waited. She said, you've always had trouble when I move away from you. That sounds like Evelyn. She had examples. That stopped me. Hannah counted them without looking at me. When I went to Chicago for work after Mom died, you called 3 times the first day. I did. When I rented the apartment on Beacon Street, you contacted the property manager because you didn't like one section of the lease. I did. And you hated Trevor before I finally figured out I hated Trevor too. He lied to you. That isn't the point. No, it wasn't. Hannah pulled off one glove finger by finger. She said, you're not trying to protect my trust. You're trying to keep me in a place where you still get final approval. The kitchen faucet gave one slow drip. I wanted to tell her Evelyn had built a case out of unrelated moments, but unrelated did not mean untrue. I was scared after your mother died, I said. Hannah's eyes stayed on me. I made some of that your problem. Her shoulders dropped slightly, but not enough. I need space from you. How much? Rehearsal dinner. I did not understand at first. She swallowed. I don't want you there. The words landed softly. That made them harder. I was the father of the bride. Under ordinary circumstances, there would have been a seat with my name on it, photographs, a toast, some awkward joke about giving away a daughter who had never belonged to anyone in the first place. Instead, I looked at the brass lighthouse magnet on my refrigerator, twin to the one holding Hannah's invitation at her apartment. Okay, I said. Her head came up. That's all. If you don't want me there, I won't go. I don't want another confrontation. You won't get one from me. Hannah put her second glove in her pocket but did not leave. One more thing, she said. What? If the certification comes and it shows Nathan never put my money into the lender forecast, will you stop? The question left me nowhere comfortable to stand. If the document cleared him, continuing would mean I was no longer following evidence. I would just be a father searching for a reason not to let go. Yes, I said. You mean that? Yes. Her hand closed around the doorknob. I had spent most of the week asking other people to live with what their documents proved. Now the same rule belonged to me. Hannah opened the door. If it clears him, I said. I stop. She nodded and walked out. The latch clicked shut behind her. On my dining table, the empty chair across from mine was where she had sat every night the first month after Julia died. Friday's rehearsal dinner would have another empty chair. Mine. The certification reached Hannah on Tuesday, October 13th, at 8:23 in the morning. She forwarded it to me without a message. That told me enough. The PDF was only 4 pages, But the first signature block stopped me before I reached the second. Nathan Cole, Vice President of Business Development, Authorized Officer, Harbor House Hotel LLC. So much for not being the person who handled the financing. I kept reading. The radiator ticked under my window. My coffee smelled burnt because I had forgotten it on the warming plate again. The paper felt slightly damp from the printer when I lifted the first page and found the sentence Richard had resisted giving Hannah for days. The borrower forecast included an anticipated equity contribution from Hannah Whitaker in the amount of $2,800,000. Not pledged, not guaranteed, not legally committed, expected, and Nathan had signed beneath it on August 24th. I checked the diligence index Richard had sent earlier. Buried near the back was an LLC resolution authorizing Nathan, as vice president, to sign lender forecasts and certifications on behalf of Harbor House. He had authority. He had signed. My phone rang. Hannah said, "You saw it." "Yes. Tell me exactly what it proves." "Nothing more." I pulled a yellow pad toward me. "It proves Harbor House gave the lender a forecast on August 24th that included $2,800,000 of expected equity from you. Nathan signed the certification as an authorized officer. Does it prove I promised the money? No. Does it prove he told the bank I had already agreed? No. What does it prove about him? That he participated in putting your money into the forecast." Silence came through the phone. Then Hannah asked, "What did I know on August 24th? That was the right question. I wrote the dates down in a straight column. August 24th. Certification. October 5th. Dinner. After dinner. Full debt package. Later. Guarantee. Member loan. Sources and uses. You tell me," I said. "What had Nathan shown you by August 24th? Nothing like this. Had you seen the bridge loan? No. His guarantee? No. The member loan? No. Had anybody told you your investment was expected as part of a lender extension? No." Her voice changed on that last answer. Lower, slower. "What had you told Nathan?" I asked. "That maybe I'd invest someday. After we were married, if the hotel expansion made sense. The amount? I had told him what the trust was worth, not that I was giving all of it to Harbor House." I put the pen down. The chronology did not need help from me. Hannah called Nathan 20 minutes later. She called me first and said, "I want you on the line, but you do not speak unless I ask." Agreed. Nathan accepted the speaker call. His first words were, "I know what Richard sent you." Hannah answered, "Then explain why your signature is on it." Nathan breathed out, "Because Dad needed a forecast for the extension. With my exact trust balance. You had told me the amount. I told you what I owned. I did not tell you to put it in a bank forecast." "Hannah, it says anticipated equity. It does not say committed capital." "I can read." Another pause. Nathan's voice softened. "I believed you were going to do it. Believing I'd say yes is not the same as asking me." He said nothing for several seconds. Then came the explanation he had been circling all week. My parents were under enormous pressure. The bridge maturity was coming. Dad thought the lender would force a sale if they couldn't show a credible source of fresh equity. Mom was talking about staff losing jobs. "People who have worked there 20 years, Hannah asked. "So you gave the bank my money?" "No. I put an expected investment into a forecast." "Without telling me." "I was going to tell you." "When?" Nathan's answer came so quietly I almost missed it. "After the wedding. When we could sit down as a family and go through everything without your father turning every conversation into a trial." Hannah did not speak. Neither did I. Nathan rushed into the silence. "That sounded worse than I meant it. I thought once we were married, once you were officially part of the family, you'd understand why everyone was trying to keep Harbor House together." "When I was officially part of the family," Hannah repeated. "Yes. So after I had already married you." "That isn't what I meant. It's exactly when you said you planned to explain it." Nathan's breathing filled the speaker. For the first time since the restaurant, there was no mother to blame for a bad joke and no father to hide behind a spreadsheet. only Nathan's own sentence. After the call, Hannah stayed quiet long enough that I checked whether the line had dropped. "Dad," she said, "I'm here. Do not call anyone. I won't. I mean it. Not Richard. Not the lender. Not my trustee. I understand." Her keyboard began clicking. "What are you doing?" "Stopping the investment. The withdrawal instruction had to be submitted by Tuesday if the trust company was going to process a distribution in time for the planned October 20th wire." Hannah did not freeze anything. She did not need to. The trust remained exactly where Julia had left it, under Hannah's control. She simply did not send the instruction. The trust portal showed the same rule it had shown since Hannah turned 30. A written withdrawal request had to be received 5 business days before distribution. Tuesday was the practical cutoff for money expected on October 20th. No request meant no transfer. No emergency call. No father pulling strings. Just an empty submission box on a screen Hannah controlled. She sent me a screenshot of the page with the cursor resting over the button marked Submit Request. "You see it?" she asked. "Yes." I'm closing the page. The next screenshot showed the dashboard. No pending withdrawal. That small blank line did more than any speech I could have made at Evelyn's dinner table. For the first time since this began, the Coles were not waiting for Thomas Whitaker to object. They were waiting for Hannah to act. And she had chosen not to. Then she emailed Richard. She read the message to me before sending it. "I will not sign investment documents or authorize any distribution until I receive the final funds flow, all related party payments, and complete closing instructions. Please, do not treat my capital as available." "Send it," I said. I wasn't asking permission. "Right." The email went out. Richard called within 6 minutes. Hannah declined the call. Evelyn called next. Declined. Nathan called third. She answered. I was no longer on speaker for that conversation. Hannah called me afterward and told me what he had offered. "He says he'll sign a prenup," she said. I stood at my kitchen counter, one hand flat against the cool stone. "What kind?" "He'll waive any claim to the trust. The trust stays separate. He says I never have to put $1 into Harbor House. He'll even try to get himself removed from the guarantee if the lender allows it. That is not nothing." "I know." Her voice cracked on the last word, then steadied. "He says we can still get married Saturday and deal with the hotel separately." "Did he say anything about August 24th? I asked. "He said he was trying to keep the hotel from being cornered by the lender." "That is an explanation." "I know. Did he say why he didn't tell you before you signed up for a wedding?" Hannah was quiet. "He said he kept waiting for a better time. There was always a better time when the truth cost someone something. After dinner, after the fitting, after the wedding, after the wire. The calendar could keep moving until the choice no longer belonged to the person who should have made it." "What do you want?" "I don't know." Every part of me wanted to answer for her. "Cancel it. Do not walk down that aisle. Do not marry a man who decided your consent would be easier after you were already his wife." "I said none of it," Hannah continued. "I need 1 day. The investment is stopped. The wedding is not. Not yet." "All right." An hour later, she forwarded another email from Nathan. Attached was a draft prenuptial agreement. His message contained one line. "If money is the problem, I can take money out of the marriage." I read it twice. Then I looked at the certification beside it. Money had never been the only problem. "Read the second paragraph again," Hannah said. The draft prenup sat between us on her kitchen table. 12 pages of clean language trying to make one problem look smaller than it was. Outside the window, traffic hissed over damp pavement. The paper was cool beneath my fingertips, and coffee from a cardboard cup had gone bitter enough to leave a burnt smell in the room. I read the clause aloud. "Any interest Hannah Whitaker owns in the Whitaker Family Trust remains her separate property. Nathan Cole waives any present or future marital claim to distributions, principal, income, or appreciation from that trust." Hannah pointed lower on the page. "And that one. Neither spouse shall have any obligation to contribute separate property to Harbor House Hotel or any business owned by the Cole family." She sat back. "So if he signs this, my trust stays mine." If your own attorney reviews it, you have full disclosure, and you sign it properly, it gives you real protection. You're not going to tell me it's meaningless? No, it isn't meaningless. That seemed to irritate her more than if I had attacked it. Hannah folded her arms. Then what exactly are you still protecting me from? The question deserved a better answer than Nathan is lying. I turned the prenup around, so the signature lines faced me. Not from a future claim to your trust. This can address that. What it cannot change is what already happened before you were given the information you needed to make a decision. You mean the forecast? I mean Nathan knew your balance, put that exact amount into a lender forecast, signed the certification, and planned to explain the financing after you were married. He says he thought I was going to invest. He may have believed that. And now he's willing to marry me without the investment. Yes. Her eyes stayed on mine. That matters. It does. The answer came out easily because it was true. I had no right to turn every concession Nathan made into another trick, simply because I no longer trusted him. Hannah pressed both palms against the table. I'm going to the rehearsal dinner. The wedding is still on for now. I nodded once. She waited. Apparently she expected more. That's your decision, I said. Nathan called me that afternoon. It was the first time he had contacted me directly since the restaurant. Thomas, he said, I know you and I are not going to agree on everything. That's probably safe. But thank you for giving us room. I looked at the stack of papers on my dining table. Hannah asked for room. I'm respecting her request. I appreciate it anyway. A second voice came onto the call. Evelyn. We all do, she said. Her tone had recovered its polished warmth. And for what it's worth, Richard and I will not accept 1 penny from Hannah that she does not freely choose to invest. I hope that can finally be put to rest. 1 penny, I repeated, not one. Good. An hour later, Hannah texted me that her attorney would review the prenup independently before she signed anything. She also reminded me that my place at the rehearsal dinner had not changed. I was still not coming. I typed, understood, then deleted the second sentence I had started. The cream wedding invitation was still on my sideboard, my name printed beneath father of the bride on the planning card Hannah had given me months earlier. I turned the card face down instead of throwing it away. There was no point punishing paper for what people had done. That evening, Hannah called again. Nathan says, signing the prenup should prove the marriage and the hotel are separate, she said. It proves he is willing to put that separation in writing now. Now, yes. You always leave one word sitting there like a thumbtack. I'm trying not to. Try harder. I will. For the rest of that day, nothing happened. No new accusation, no argument, no document hidden behind another document. By evening, the prenup was with Hannah's attorney, the trust had no pending withdrawal, and the wedding still had a rehearsal dinner on the calendar. For a few hours, the whole mess seemed to have found a place to stop. Then Richard sent the final closing package. Hannah forwarded it to me the next morning with a short note. Last review. Please just tell me whether the numbers add up. I printed the funds flow and placed it beside the preliminary schedule from Saturday. The new version was cleaner, more specific. Every dollar of the proposed $2,800,000 had a destination. The bridge lender would receive $1,250,000 as full payoff. Nathan's member loan would receive $540,000. Vendor arrears took $315,000. Property taxes took $185,000. Transaction, lender, and legal fees took $110,000. Working capital received $250,000. Growth improvements received $150,000. Total, $2,800,000. I ran the arithmetic twice anyway. It balanced. That was not the problem. An attachment behind the schedule contained the bridge lender's payoff instructions. Full receipt of the $1,250,000 would satisfy the bridge facility and release the related personal guarantees, including Nathan's. I read the sentence a second time, then turned back to the member loan. A wire instruction sat beneath it. Of the $540,000 Harbor House planned to repay Nathan, $405,000 would not go into his checking account. It would be wired directly to a personal line of credit in Nathan Cole's name. The remaining $135,000 matched the portion he had originally funded from savings. My chair made a small scrape against the floor when I pushed back. At the restaurant, Evelyn had laughed in French because she believed I could not understand her. After the wedding, her trust can pay off our son's debts. For more than a week, everyone had treated that sentence as exaggeration, a joke, a misunderstanding, bad wording from a nervous mother. Now the closing instructions gave it an address and a routing number. Still, I did not call Hannah and tell her what to do. I called and asked one question. Have you read the line under Nathan's member loan repayment? Paper moved on her end. I'm opening it now. I waited. What am I looking for? She asked. Read the wire beneficiary. Silence. Then I heard her breathe in. Personal line of credit. Nathan Cole. Yes. $405,000. Yes. She kept reading. And the bridge payoff releases his guarantee. That's what the payoff letter says. Another long pause. Hannah spoke more quietly. So if I had sent the trust money, part of it would have gone straight to his personal debt. Through repayment of the member loan, yes. And the rest would have paid off a company loan he personally guaranteed. Yes. The prenup says he doesn't want my trust. It says he waives marital claims to it and you have no obligation to invest. But this closing statement still pays him if I invest. Yes. Her next words came slowly. If the prenup means he doesn't want my money, why did they send me a closing statement that pays him? I looked at the signature on the certification, then at the payoff instructions. That's your question to ask him. Hannah did not answer right away. When she finally spoke, there was no tremor in her voice. I'm still going to the rehearsal dinner. All right. But I'm not going there to celebrate. I heard a drawer open at her apartment, followed by the mechanical hum of her printer. What are you printing? I asked. The investment proposal, the lender extension, Nathan's certification, the final funds flow. The printer started feeding pages. 1 set? 3. For Richard, Evelyn, and Nathan? Yes. I stood by my dining table with the phone against my ear while page after page came through on her end. Then a smaller sound, metal touching wood. Hannah? I took off my ring. My hand tightened around the phone. Are you ending it? I haven't decided what I'm ending. She paused. But nobody is answering me tomorrow while I'm wearing proof that I already said yes. A drawer slid shut. When Hannah spoke again, her voice was level. The ring is going in my purse. Dad, come to the venue at 5. Not the dining room. The library. Hannah called me Friday afternoon while I was standing in my kitchen with the wedding invitation still face down on the sideboard. Are you sure? I asked. Yes. Nathan and his parents will be there. I want you there too. Her voice was steady, but I could hear paper moving near the phone. What do you need from me? Only answer when I ask you. And bring nothing. I have the copies. I arrived 20 minutes early anyway. The venue was an old coastal inn outside Newport, all dark wood and brass fixtures, with the smell of lemon polish in the hallway and roasted onions drifting from the kitchen. Through a closed set of doors, I could hear silverware being placed for the rehearsal dinner. A server carried folded napkins past me without looking up. Hannah met me outside the library. No ring. She wore the same dark blue dress she had bought for the dinner, but her left hand was bare. 3 thick envelopes were tucked under one arm. You came alone? She asked. Yes. Good. Inside, Nathan was already standing near the fireplace. Evelyn sat on a leather sofa with her purse beside her. Richard remained near the window, checking his phone as if he had been called away from a meeting instead of summoned by the woman who was supposed to marry his son the next morning. Evelyn rose first. Hannah, before this becomes another financial interrogation, I think we all need to remember what tomorrow is supposed to mean. 2 families becoming one, not 5 people sitting in a back room accusing each other. Hannah closed the door. The latch clicked harder than it should have in the small room. She placed the envelopes on the table without sitting. And for the first time that week, nobody could pretend this was just another conversation she might postpone. Before we become one family, I need to know which family debt my money was already expected to solve. Richard put his phone away. Those lender materials are confidential. You gave them to me because you wanted me to invest, Hannah said. I'm discussing them with the people named in them. Nobody else. Richard's mouth flattened. She laid the investment proposal on the table first, followed by the debt schedule. You sold me growth, she said. Renovated rooms, a rooftop, event space. Why does most of my money go to obligations that already exist? Because refinancing is part of responsible capitalization, Richard replied. No sophisticated investor objects to cleaning up legacy debt before expansion. Hannah looked at me. He's right that refinancing can be normal, I said, if the investor is told clearly what the money is doing. Evelyn let out a breath. Even Thomas agrees. That was an agreement with you, Hannah said. She placed the personal guarantee beside Nathan's member loan. Nathan's gaze dropped to the papers. You told me the bridge loan was the company's problem, Hannah said. You also guaranteed $1,250,000 personally. Harbor House owes you $540,000. Why did I learn both of those things after I agreed to marry you? Nathan rubbed the back of his neck. Because neither one changes what I feel about you. That wasn't my question. I was trying to protect you from business stress that wasn't yours. Evelyn leaned forward. And you had discussed investing, sweetheart. You had discussed the trust with Nathan. Nobody invented that conversation. Hannah reached for the lender extension. No. I told my fiancé what I owned. I did not give him permission to present my exact balance to his family's bank as expected equity before I knew there was a deadline or what the money was for. Richard lifted one hand. Expected equity is not committed capital. We have been over this. I know. That stopped him. Hannah tapped the date on the extension. August 24th. The bank had my exact number 6 weeks before the dinner, where Evelyn called it a joke. Nathan stepped closer to the table. Because I thought you were going to invest. You assumed. Yes. And you thought you would explain the debt after the wedding. Nathan's eyes moved toward me. This is what he wanted from the beginning. Hannah opened the second envelope. The borrower forecast and capital certification slid onto the table. Nathan's signature sat at the bottom. He stared at it for a second, then looked straight at me. You never wanted me in her life. There were a dozen answers available. 6 years of worrying about Hannah after Julia died had trained me to reach for all of them at once. I kept my hands in my lap. I didn't sign your name. Nothing else. Nathan's face shifted, as if he had expected a fight and had nowhere to put the one he had prepared. Hannah turned to him. You signed this as an authorized officer. My father needed the extension. So you helped him get it using money I had not agreed to invest. I believed you would agree. That is the part you still don't hear. Evelyn stood. He was trying to save his family's hotel. That is not a moral failure. Hannah looked at her. Which family? Evelyn went still. The muffled sound of chairs moving came through the wall. Guests were beginning to arrive in the dining room. Hannah opened the last envelope. The final funds flow landed on top of everything else. She did not explain it. She pointed. $1,250,000 pays off the bridge loan in full. The payoff letter releases Nathan's guarantee. Richard started to speak, but Hannah held up one finger. $540,000 repays Nathan's member loan. $405,000 of that is wired directly to his personal line of credit, Nathan said. That line funded Harbor House. Yes, and my trust was going to pay Harbor House, which was going to pay you, which was going to pay your personal line. It's repayment of money I already put in. I understand that. Her voice never rose. That's why I'm asking one simple question. Why does every road from my trust end by paying something that protects you? Nathan looked at the funds flow, then at Hannah. I'll walk away from the entire investment, he said. Forget the hotel. Forget the member loan. I'll service the line myself. I'll sign the prenup exactly as your attorney wants it. Marry me tomorrow, and none of this money ever touches us. Hannah's hand disappeared into her purse. Nathan took another step toward her. Don't let your father decide our life. I did not move. Hannah took out the ring. For a moment it rested in her palm, catching the yellow library light. Then she placed it beside Nathan's guarantee. He didn't decide this, she said. You did. Nathan's mouth opened. No words came. The investment is canceled, Hannah continued. The wedding is canceled. Evelyn's hand went to the back of the sofa. Do you have any idea how many people are coming tomorrow? Hannah picked up her purse. Then you have a lot of calls to make. Richard stared at the table, at the extension, the certification, the final schedule. All the technical language he had used for a week remained printed in front of him, but none of it could make tomorrow happen. Hannah turned toward me. Come with me. We left the three of them in the library. In the dining room, conversation thinned as Hannah walked to the front. Glasses stopped touching plates. Someone near the door whispered her name. She did not mention the trust. She did not mention Nathan's debt, the bank, his guarantee, or a single account number. There will not be a wedding tomorrow, Hannah said. I'm sorry you traveled here and made plans. I can't continue with the marriage, and I'm not going to discuss private financial details tonight. A chair creaked. Somebody drew in a sharp breath. Hannah thanked everyone once, then stepped away from the room. I followed her into the hallway. Behind us, voices rose in small pockets. Phones began ringing almost immediately. Hannah stopped beside a brass table holding a bowl of white flowers. Her hand hovered near my arm, then dropped. I need to go home. I'll drive behind you. She nodded. As we passed the closed library door, no one came out. Nathan stayed inside with the ring on the table and his own signature underneath it. By 7 the next morning, Hannah had already canceled the florist, the photographer, and the room where she was supposed to become Nathan's wife. When I reached her apartment, her wedding dress was still hanging from the bedroom door in its white garment bag. Her phone vibrated across the kitchen counter every few minutes. A hotel coordinator, 2 cousins, one of Julia's old friends, then the bakery. Hannah pressed the heel of her hand against her forehead. The cake is non-refundable. How much? $3,400. That hurts. So does the photographer deposit, and half the venue payment I made. She looked at me. Do not offer to reimburse me. I closed my mouth. She caught it anyway. You were about to. Yes. No. All right. The answer felt unnatural, like writing with the wrong hand. Hannah slid a legal pad across the counter. You can help with one thing. What? Call the relatives from Mom's side. Tell them the wedding is canceled. No details. I don't want Aunt Carol calling me 6 times before lunch. I can do that. One thing, Dad. One thing. So I sat at her small dining table and made 12 calls. I did not explain Nathan's guarantee. I did not mention the trust. When people asked what happened, I said only that Hannah had ended the engagement and needed privacy. Across the room, she handled the vendors herself. Some deposits came back. Others did not. Nobody performed a miracle because a bride had changed her mind the night before. The florist kept the rush order fee, and the venue retained the portion already earned under the cancellation clause. By noon, Hannah had lost several $1,000s she had paid personally, and the Cole family was still responsible for the contracts they had signed. She looked at the total and said, "Expensive Saturday." I almost told her it was cheap compared with $2,800,000. Almost. The buzzer sounded from downstairs. Hannah checked the building camera on her phone. Nathan, she let him up. He came in wearing yesterday's shirt under a different jacket. His eyes looked raw, and there was a crease down one side of his face, as if he had slept against a sofa cushion. I only need 5 minutes, Nathan said. Hannah stayed beside the kitchen counter. Dad is here. Nathan looked at me. Can we talk alone? She considered it, then nodded toward the hallway. Dad, give us 10 minutes. I took my coat and went downstairs to the lobby. 11 minutes later, Hannah called me back up. Nathan was standing by the door when I entered. I'll leave Harbor House, he said to her. I'll sign whatever prenup your attorney wants. I'll never ask you to invest. I'll never let my parents ask again. Hannah held the door open. Why did you wait until after I found it? She asked. Nathan looked down at his keys. I thought I could fix it before it became your problem. It became my problem when you used my money in the forecast. I know. Why did you wait? His thumb moved over the edge of the key fob. I was afraid you'd say no. That was the first answer he had given all week that did not come wrapped in financing language. Hannah nodded once. Then you already knew I needed the chance to say it. Nathan's eyes closed for a moment. I love you. I'm not asking whether you love me. He stood there another few seconds. Then Hannah said, Do not call me for a while. No visits. No messages through your mother. If I want contact, I'll make it. Nathan left without arguing. The elevator doors shut behind him. That was not forgiveness. It was a boundary. The next problem arrived on schedule. Harbor House still needed capital. I knew only what Hannah chose to show me. Richard sent her 2 emails during the week after the canceled wedding, because her name still appeared in earlier transaction drafts. In the first, he asked whether she would reconsider a smaller investment. She answered no. In the second, he confirmed that Harbor House was seeking replacement capital before the lender's October 23rd deadline. Nobody found a clean substitute in 6 days. The hotel had valuable real estate and functioning operations, but it also had the bridge debt, overdue obligations, thin cash, and a lender already on its final extension. A new investor could see exactly what Hannah had seen. One group offered rescue capital before the deadline, according to an email Richard later sent while removing Hannah from the old closing chain. They wanted voting control and the right to replace management. Richard rejected it. He still wanted the money without surrendering the chair. October 23rd came on a Friday. Nothing exploded. No sheriff chained the doors. Guests still checked in. Housekeepers still changed sheets. The lender simply declined to extend the bridge facility again under the existing terms, and Harbor House entered a negotiated workout. That difference mattered. A month later, the company retained an advisor to seek a recapitalization or sale. By then, the early rescue offer was gone. The lender required tighter reporting, spending controls, and a formal process for new capital. Richard kept trying to preserve control. Each week made that position more expensive. By January, Harbor House accepted a transaction with an outside group that brought in enough money to pay and restructure the pressing obligations. The price was control. Richard's ownership fell below a majority, and management authority shifted with it. He had not lost the hotel because Hannah refused to rescue him. He lost control because he had borrowed too much, disclosed too little, and waited too long to accept money that came with conditions. Evelyn sent Hannah one message after the transaction became final. Hannah showed it to me over coffee. We are sorry for the pain this caused. We were trying to save the hotel and protect everyone connected to it. I hope one day you can understand that. Hannah locked her phone. You answering? I asked. No. I did not ask again. Nathan respected the no-contact rule for almost 4 months. Then he sent Hannah one written update because she had told him, through her attorney, that he could contact her once about unfinished financial matters. She told me only the parts she wanted me to know. His $540,000 member loan had not been repaid under the canceled closing. The $405,000 personal line remained his responsibility. During the recapitalization, part of the member loan was deferred rather than paid in full. He sold a sports car, moved into a smaller apartment, and set up a repayment plan with his bank. The bridge guarantee disappeared only when the old bridge facility was paid and replaced as part of the control transaction months later, not before. Nathan also left his business development position after the new controlling owners brought in their own management team. He didn't ask me to come back, Hannah said. That's something. He said he finally understands that fixing consequences isn't the same as fixing what he did. I stirred my coffee. Do you believe him? I believe he wrote it. That was all she owed the question. By spring, Hannah had moved the trust's investment advice to an independent fiduciary who had never met me, never worked with the Coles, and had no reason to care whether I approved of anything. We met for dinner at a small place near her office. No linen tablecloth, no French whispers, just forks against stoneware and the smell of coffee from the counter near the register. Halfway through the meal, Hannah put down her glass. Dad, you were right about them. I waited. You were also too involved before this. I know. No defense? I have several. None would improve dinner. That got a real laugh from her. When the check came, Hannah reached for it first. We're splitting it, she said. Fine. You said that too quickly. I'm learning. She put her card down beside mine. My new advisor wants to meet Thursday about a municipal bond allocation and some private credit exposure. Old habits moved faster than thought. I nearly asked for the deck. Nearly asked who the advisor was. What firm, what fees, what duration. Hannah watched me catch myself. I don't need you to come, she said. I nodded. Coffee or dessert? What should you take from a story like this? Start with something practical. Love does not cancel the need for informed consent. When money, property, debt, or family business interests are involved, you deserve to know exactly what you are being asked to risk before you say yes. A relationship may be emotional, but a financial decision still has numbers, documents, deadlines, and consequences. If someone tells you not to worry about the details, that is often the moment when you should slow down and read more carefully. You should also pay attention to the difference between knowing about your money and having permission to use it in someone else's plan. Sharing your finances with a partner can be healthy. Trusting someone does not mean giving them the right to make assumptions on your behalf. If your savings, inheritance, home, or retirement account is being discussed with lenders, relatives, or business partners, you should know what was said, when it was said, and what other people are expecting from you. Another lesson is that a bad situation does not always begin with one dramatic lie. Sometimes it grows through small omissions, a missing document, a vague answer, a deadline mentioned too late, a promise to explain everything after the wedding, after the signing, or after the money moves. By the time all those small choices are placed side by side, the pattern becomes much harder to dismiss. And if you are the parent of an adult child, this story leaves you with another responsibility. Protecting someone is not the same as controlling them. You can point to the document, you can ask the question nobody else wants asked, you can explain what a number means, but you cannot make the final choice for another adult and still call that respect. Sometimes, the hardest kind of protection is giving someone the truth, then keeping your hands off the decision. The same applies when someone you love has made a serious mistake. An apology is not the same as repair. A new promise, a contract, or a sudden offer to change may matter, but you are allowed to ask why that change came only after the truth was discovered. Real accountability is easier to see in what someone does after consequences arrive than in what they say when they are trying to stop those consequences. You should never feel embarrassed for asking where your money is going. You should never be rushed because a wedding date, family reputation, business deadline, or someone else's emergency makes questions inconvenient. A healthy agreement can survive careful questions. If asking for clarity threatens the relationship, the problem may not be the question. So think about your own life. Have you ever been pressured to help family financially before you were given the full story? Have you ever ignored a small inconsistency because confronting it felt more painful than staying quiet? And if someone you loved asked you to choose between trust and transparency, which one would you protect first? Sometimes the strongest answer is not revenge at all. It is refusing to sign, refusing to wire the money, refusing to let guilt make the decision for you, and walking away with your ability to choose still intact.